One of the men charged in the 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol and freed by President Trump has been rearrested on gun charges, and federal health agencies have been directed to halt all communications with the public. Good afternoon. I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. President Trump is continuing to defend his pardon of all the people charged and convicted in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol 4 years ago. He pardoned about 1,500 people. Now, NPR's Tom Dreisbach reports one of the men Trump freed has been rearrested on gun charges.
During the January 6th attack on the Capitol, Daniel Ball allegedly threw an explosive device which ricocheted off a police officer's helmet and exploded, causing multiple injuries. Later, he allegedly threw a piece of wood at police officers protecting the Capitol. His case was pending when Trump ordered Ball freed as part of his blanket clemency for January 6th defendants. But then, Ball was rearrested on unrelated charges. Federal prosecutors in Florida say he illegally possessed a gun, even though he had a criminal record for multiple felonies, including domestic violence battery by strangulation and resisting law enforcement by violence. Tom Dreisbach, NPR News.
The Trump administration is suspending all refugee admissions to the United States. That includes Afghans who helped the U.S. during America's longest war. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports.
The State Department has told agencies that help resettle refugees that all arrivals have been suspended and previously planned travel should be canceled. The move leaves thousands of refugees already cleared to move to the U.S. in limbo. The ranking Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Jeanne Shaheen, is urging the Trump administration to reconsider. She's expressed alarm that more than 1,600 Afghans who were cleared to resettle in the U.S. have had their flights canceled. She says the U.S. should not turn its back on them or on others in need, including refugees fleeing violence in Sudan and Burma. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
The House has voted to pass the Laken-Riley Act. NPR's Jimena Bustillo reports this sends the measure to President Trump for his signature.
The measure would make it easier for federal immigration officials to detain and deport those without legal status who are charged with crimes ranging from minor burglary offenses to more serious crimes involving bodily harm, death, or harm to law enforcement officers. The measure passed with the support of 46 Democrats. The vote marked a major shift for many in the party. Democrats broadly rejected the measure at various times last year, but the politics of the bill shifted after the election. 12 Democrats supported the bill when it passed the Senate earlier this week. Trump could sign the bill as early as this week. Jimena Bustillo, NPR News, Washington.
Trump administration officials say they're already rounding up more migrants accused of violent crimes. It's part of their effort to crack down on people without legal status in the United States. But NPR's Brian Mann reports so far, the number of arrests appears only slightly higher than under the Biden administration.
Trump officials say they've arrested roughly 400 migrants with criminal records. Speaking on Fox News, White House advisor Stephen Miller said initial immigration operations have already arrested and removed what he called some of the most vicious criminals in this country. But former acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs John Sandwig told NPR enforcement actions carried out so far aren't a significant increase.
I think these operations, this initial surge, is business as usual.
NPR found migrant arrests varied over time during the Biden administration, but federal agents were already arresting more than 100 migrants per day with criminal convictions or charges pending before Trump took office. Brian Mann, NPR News, New York.
The Trump administration has told all federal health agencies to immediately stop all public communications. That's until they can all be reviewed by a Trump appointee. The National Institutes of Health has now canceled key meetings. NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin says scientists, such as cancer researchers, say they've been told almost nothing about the cancellations.
These are not the kinds of meetings that can easily be rescheduled. There are a lot of moving parts, different institutions, different timetables, and a delay, especially an indefinite delay like this one, could really have a negative impact on important cancer research. The full scope of these cancellations isn't clear at this point, but a lot of scientists are concerned that biomedical research of all kinds could be disrupted.
NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin reporting. President Trump is threatening to impose high levels of tariffs and sanctions on Russia if there's no deal to end the war in Ukraine. NPR's Franco Ordonez has more.
During his campaign, Trump repeatedly said he could settle the war between Russia and Ukraine in one day if he was elected president. Speaking to reporters this week, Trump said the Ukrainians want to make a deal.
President Zelensky would like to have peace. He's told me that very strongly. He'd like to have peace, but it takes two to tango. We'll see what happens.
In his social media post, Trump emphasizes that he's not looking to hurt Russia and that he's actually doing Putin a very big favor, considering the number of Russian lives lost and the impact on the economy. In Trump's words, it's time to end the ridiculous war, adding, quote, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way, and the easy way is always better." Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
Same-sex couples across Thailand officially tied the knot today as the country's Marriage Equality Act took effect. Michael Sullivan reports Thailand is the first country in Southeast Asia to pass such legislation.
A mass wedding organized by the group Bangkok Pride was staged at the upscale Siam Paragon Mall, with the country's prime minister declaring on social media that today the rainbow flag is proudly flying over Thailand. The country has long enjoyed a reputation for tolerance, despite being a relatively conservative Buddhist majority nation. Activists have been battling for more than a decade for the bill's passage, which came only after two major political parties backed it in the 2023 general election. The bill changes the definition of marriage in Thailand's civil code and also gives married same-sex couples inheritance and adoption rights. For NPR News, I'm Michael Sullivan in Chiang Rai, Thailand.
After several fire-related delays, the Motion Picture Academy's Oscar nominations have been announced this morning. NPR's Bob Mondello reports the unorthodox musical Emilia Perez leads the Best Picture parade.
Emilia Perez is a French and Spanish-language gangster musical about trans identity. It led a field of unorthodox films with 13 nominations, including Best Picture, another musical, Wicked Part 1, and the 3.5-hour epic The Brutalist about immigrant trauma, followed with 10 nominations each. Joining them in the Best Picture race are the Vatican thriller Conclave and the Bob Dylan biopic A Complete Unknown with 8 nominations each, and the sex worker rom-com Enora with 6. Also in the running, the sci-fi epic Dune Part 2, the body horror film The Substance, the Spanish-language drama I'm Still Here, and The Nickel Boys, set in a racist reform school. The Oscars telecast will be hosted by Conan O'Brien on March 2. Bob Mondello, NPR News.
I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News.